Right, hello and good day everyone. My name is Paul Lorenzo. Today I will be discussing how we can minimize cost to maximize profit margins. This is a fundamental goal in supply chain management. To better understand this concept, we'll walk you through a specific example involving Sunchem, a global manufacturer of printing inks. So this is the table for supply chain. Along with the cost of producing and shipping an air conditioner to each of four markets, where should dry ice build its factories and how should they be? All right, just double check here. Oh, here, number three, sorry. So Sunchem, a manufacturer of printing inks, has five manufacturing plants worldwide. Their locations and capacities are shown in table 5 to 7, along with the cost of producing 1 ton of ink at each facility. So the production costs are in the local currency of the country where the plant is located. So the major markets for the inks are North America, South America, Europe, Japan, and the rest of Asia. So the demand at each market is shown in table 5 to 7. Transportation costs from each plant to each market in US dollars are shown in table 5 to 7 as well. So the management must come up with a production plan for 2006. So if the exchange rates are expected in the table as in the table 5 to 8, there are no plant can run below 50% of capacity. How much should each plant produce and which market should each plant supply? And letter B, if there are no limits on the amount produced in a plant, how much should each plant produce? And can adding 10 tons of capacity in any plant reduce cost? And how should Sunchem account for the fact that exchange rates fluctuate over time? All right. So let's begin with the first table that I did here. All right. So keep in mind the overview of the case, Sunchem. Sunchem has five manufacturing plants worldwide located in, yes, North America, South America, Europe or Germany, Japan or Asia, which is in India. The production capacities demand various markets and transportation costs are provided in table 5 to 7. And while table 5 to 8 actually contains uh, the anticipated exchange rate for the year 2006. So the major markets that require ink supply are also in the five regions as mentioned above, which is North America, South America, Europe, Japan, and Asia. So management is tasked with creating an optimal production plan for 2006 to meet the demand at the lowest possible total cost, considering production, capacity, and transportation. So question A here, if the exchange rates are as projected in table 5 to 8, uh, and no plant is below 50% of its capacity, how much should each plant produce and which market should they serve? All right, so let's break it down. So the minimum production uh, per plant, each plant must operate at least 50% of its capacity. So it's simple. We simply divide the given capacity by 2 here. We simply divide the given capacity by 2. So what's 185 divided by 2, which give us 93, to determine the minimum tonnage each plant should produce. So for example, if we have the US capacity of 180 divided by 2, the minimum run rate should be 90. For Germany, which is for example, 475 or 476, that's divided by 2, the minimum is 238. For Japan, that's 50 divided by 2 is 25. And 200 divided by 2 is 1. And then 100 rather, and then 80 divided by 2 is 40. So as go on and so forth. So the production per ton in USD, we multiply the local production cost per ton by the exchange rate from tables 5 to 8. So the sample results are of the following. So you can see for US, we have here $1,000 and then 530, and then Japan has over 16,740, and then for Brazil we have 7,306, and then for India we have 9,200. Sorry, 10,000 rather for the US. All right, so for the total production cost, So we have to multiply each plant's cost per ton in USD by the number of the tons they produce to get the total cost in dollars. So that's $60,000. And then for Germany, that is $487,000. And then for Japan, that's $7,500. For Brazil, we do have $164,000. And then for India, we have $64,000. So how do we compute for the total cost? So it's simple. We just have to add the production cost and then the TPT to get each plant's total. So we have to get the sum for all the total system costs. So that will result, the total cost should actually be under 50% capacity constraint. So when we add 1,000,000, 4,000,000, 426,000, 1.6 million, and 800,000, we should get a total of this. $7,974,950. All right, so let's move to question B right here. So if there are no limits on production, it can either be plants can run below 50%. What's the optimal production plan? All right, let's move forward here to the other table that I did. All right. So here you can see in this scenario, we have to remove the 50% capacity on the constraint. So we have to follow the same steps as before, input the data, compute the production cost in USD, and then add the transport cost. That will result into the total cost approximately around $7,417,360, which is lower than the constraint version, as you can see. Determining this table, we can already say that this table will show flexibility and capacity utilization that can significantly reduce the total cost. All right, so let's move forward with question C. So does adding 10 tons of capacity to any plant reduce overall cost? Let's see. All right, so let me just zoom in here. So let's test it using Brazil as an example right here. So the original capacity is 210. Oh, sorry. The original capacity before was 200. Yes, 200. Now, the new capacity is 210. If we divide it by 2, we will still get to 105 for the minimum run rate. And we have to recalculate using the same methodology as we did before. The total cost with added capacity should be 7.7 million and $795,510. So comparing this, we can see on the first run that we did, which is the capacity constraint, we got 7.9 million. For the no capacity constraint, we have 7.4 million. And then here we got 7.7 million. So what does that say? Given in this table, adding 10 tons of capacity in Brazil does not reduce compared to the unconstrained scenario. Because in fact, the cost slightly increases. So the answer is simply a no. It does not help reduce the overall expenses. All right, so how should Sunchem account for the fact that exchange rates fluctuate over time? So we could actually look at this in a very thoughtful manner on how exchange rates are unpredictable and are subject to the global market forces. Simple as that. Although companies cannot control the scenario itself or cannot control them, they can manage the impact by, number one, scenario analysis. We have to evaluate multiple exchange rate scenarios during the planning period. And then the flexible sourcing strategies, we have to shift production, lower cost plans depending on exchange rate changes. Currency hedging, we have to use financial instruments to lock in rates. Number two, local production for local demand. So we have to reduce exposure to currency fluctuations. So my takeaway for this exercise is I want to understand how exchange rates changes the impact total cost, allowing Sunchem to make the informed strategic decisions and adapt to the global uncertainties more effectively. My final takeaway, I guess, is that through this analysis, we have learned how important it is to balance the following: production cost, exchange rates, transportation cost, capacity constraints. So by properly using optimization tools and spreadsheet modeling, like companies like Sunchem, uh, we can minimize the total cost and maximize profit margins even in the face of global complexity. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope this has helped you understand the process of supply chain cost and minimization. All right, thank you so much. Have a good one.